Corsair Cove starts off as a survival-focused city builder. Ensure there's plenty of stew of a galley and plenty of booze of a tavern, or your drifters may make you walk the plank. But soon enough, the game turns you loose in the Seven Seas, where you conduct raids for rare goods, plunder crown ships, and forge your pirate legend. And so today, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to get started in Corsair Cove. And if you don't have the game yet, but think this looks cool, you can use my Nexus link down below, pick the game up, and help support the channel. So the first thing to do after starting a game, set up some housing. You'll need 8 tents. The next thing to do is start your industry. This is going to mean A, building a woodcutter and a sawmill for lumber production, and B, a tavern and a campfire for food. Or a galley, sorry. Tavern is for booze, which is also just very important to pirates. What I'm going to do is put my galley and my campfires. I'm going to build 2 of them. If you're in story mode, you might not need 2. 1 might be fine. I'm going to put them over here. The reason I'm doing it this way, every building needs to be connected to your pirate camp, the central hub. But every building does not necessarily need to have the shortest route. It's not like workers are going to be going from here over to here and then back. Workers are going to be going from here, the galley, to here to pick up the food, and then it's distributed automatically from the galley. So I like to cluster all of my production. This is going to be my food area. I will set up a booze area in a different location. And I can always use warehouses to act as intermediaries if I need to get a large amount of resources from one location to another. Speaking of, let's set up a woodcutter. This requires fertile ground. So here, or here, or here. And I'm just going to go with here, because why not? I put that down, and then I connect 2 sawmills. The reason I'm connecting 2, this has an output of 8 wood per minute. This takes 4 wood per minute and turns it into planks. Planks are a basic building resource. I'm going to want a lot of them, so I end up doing that. And I'm going to build a warehouse, like so. This way I can stockpile some spare resources, specifically planks. That way I have them for later, or can set up a transportation network. If, say, I build a pirate camp over here, I might not want to build another woodcutter, so I can instead transport the planks from here over to here. And the reason setting up food is so important is because these need workers. As you can see, 2 green hands, and the green hands require a daily ration of stew, or I guess a minute-by-minute ration of stew as the case may be. Hence why my satisfaction is now dropping. So the galley is going to be distributing stew, thus counteracting the drain. While the game does provide automatic connections between resource buildings and distributors, always double check. So I built the galley here, it is connected to both campfires. This is connected properly, this is connected properly. And now I'm going to connect the warehouse here and here so that I can stockpile planks. With the Control Resources button, you can determine how many you store. I.e., I might not want 1,250, I might want an even 1,000. There's only 15 slots, so I'm going to save some room for other goods. Now, with all of this set up, I'm going to lower the game speed, and it's time to do a couple new things. First is demolishing the shipwreck. This refunds quite a few planks, which I can use for construction. The second thing is setting up booze production, as I'm going to need booze the minute I hire a crew. So I'm going to put 2 moonshine stills here, and then I'm going to build a tavern. This does not produce booze, but it does distribute it. Exactly the same as a galley. And I'm going to build a shallow pier over here, which will allow me to construct a ship. Now just go ahead and connect everything like so. Not going to worry too much about the most efficient connections, because again, things are not regularly being transported between these locations. All right, with everything set up, time to build a ship. The Landlubber, which is not a very good ship, but it's the only one you have to start with. Now in Uncharted mode, building the ship unlocks the Journal, Deeds, and Compass. The Journal tracks your victory conditions, and there are 4 paths that you can follow: Notoriety, Empire, Seafaring, and Wealth. Each of these will test you in different ways. So Empire is more about direct combat. Seafaring is exploration. Notoriety and Wealth, fame and fortune. Also, if you want to know more about how to win, both from the city building side and the victory path side, get subscribed because I'm going to be covering that in future videos. While you're down there, do be sure to leave a like, it really helps out, and ring the bell to be notified for every upload. Now, you'll find the first quest for each path in your starting area, and I highly recommend that you do all of them just to get a feel for what you want. While the game does not restrict you on any given path, you can complete every single victory condition all the way up to the final ones. It is a lot harder to do that. It's much easier to follow a single path to victory. But ultimately, the choice is up to you. Next, we have deeds. These are small tasks that you can complete, such as building extra pirate camps, exploring, building a level 2 ship, producing a certain amount of certain resources, so on and so forth. Again, none of these are things you must do, but for each you complete, you get a compass point. So, one of your early game goals is going to be to unlock Tier 2 ships. My recommendation here is that you unlock the Iron Fist in the Empire path. This will give you a vessel with high gun damage, as you can see right here, high gun damage, and high defense, suitable for direct combat, such as defending yourself against the Crown. In addition, you can follow any of the other paths if you like the story or you want to achieve victory that way. Generally speaking, you'll want multiple ships, each of which are specialized for different tasks. And so pay attention to the deeds and try to complete 3 of them in a path to unlock Tier 2. A couple of other things to look at as you're doing this. The trading post. This is a good way to get some early coin by selling unneeded resources, such as excess stew, planks, or booze. Generally, you want to sell renewable resources rather than those that are limited by deposits. You can also increase resource generation through nodes like Walk the Plank, Rock and Roll, or Fireside Feast, which is a Tier 2 node in the notoriety tree. Something else to unlock early is the Fancy Cabin, or its equivalents in the other trees. This is additional housing, which while it's slightly more expensive resource-wise, it takes up far less space. 1 classy cabin replaces 6 tents. You also get additional modes of transportation like the zip line. These are again more expensive, but far more efficient. A couple other things worth mentioning include the Shrine of the Sea, which buffs your ships, so if you keep them at sea for a while, they'll perform far better. With this buff, a Tier 2 ship might be able to perform a task intended for a Tier 3 ship, though it won't necessarily be easy. And the banners increase your maximum cohesion. Cohesion is as much a currency as it is a health bar. Lose it all, and you lose the game. But you should spend it on certain events, as the rewards are well worth the cohesion loss. Having more of it means you can spend it more freely, and you'll gain it through events on the 7 seas, i.e. charting with Charlie gives 20 cohesion. So now I'm going to go ahead and hook the booze up, because otherwise, the minute that I recruit a crew, people would be unhappy. I'm going to assign Teach, as I think he's a good first captain to assign. Manage crew here. All the way over plus 15. Perfect. And so now it's time to explore the ocean. So, once you start exploring, the Crown is going to be able to attack you. This is where you need defense for your island. There's 2 ways to do it. The first is by building a gun tower. This is a stationary tower that fires at one of the vulnerable areas. As you expand your pirate camp, the vulnerable areas might change or expand, i.e. if I place a pirate camp here, it opens a new attack point for my colony. The other way is by interception, sending one of your ships to intercept the Crown vessel, which is not going to work for your landlubber. So for now, and because you only have 1 pirate camp, go ahead and build the gun tower. Now, because I assigned a full 15 crew, I only have 1 drifter, so I'm going to do as the first task, send Teach over to these drifting castaways, thus expanding my crew. There are also random rewards around the map, such as a treasure cave or a crown port. You should always check these and see what rewards they offer. In addition, there's the Jetsam, which you can send a ship to claim resources. So, here are the drifters. 3 options. I can give them coin and send them along their way. This would increase cohesion, but I have 75, which is plenty. I could grab a few. I gain some drifters. I spend nothing. Instead, I'm going to rescue them and force them into the crew. This way I get the most population even though it does cost me a little cohesion. The second thing I'm going to do is send Teach over to the Jetsam. This is a really good way to get some early black powder to go ahead and build up that small gun tower. Now, if you wanted, as an alternative, you could build a powder mill and produce your own black powder. But that requires building out a full supply chain, which you can always check here in Overview Production Chain. So for black powder, it would be a guano deposit, then a stone and hardwood deposit. This is the woodcutter. This requires a quarry. That feeds into the char burner, and then the charcoal and the guano is combined into black powder, which would also require building a second pirate camp, because there is no bat guano in range of a starting camp here. It's over here, or over here, or over here. Another use for cohesion is on random events. In this case, fresh drifters arrive. I can either welcome them all, spending some stew and cohesion, or only take the able-bodied, spending less cohesion and stew but getting less drifters, or just steal all their stuff for shinies. As tempting as plundering them for booty is, right now, manpower is far more of an issue. So I'm again going to spend some cohesion and get the most drifters possible. This will also cause a small population crisis, so time to build some more tents. And yes, this will get space intensive, because the tents do not exactly house very many pirates. Like for these guys, 12 new tents are needed, and I'm going to need even more because of the drifters that Teach is bringing in. This is why unlocking higher tier housing early as possible is such a good idea. Also, because I know it's coming, I'm going to go ahead and do this and build a couple extra campfires. One of which is not actually going to be producing food directly for my tavern. Instead, I'm going to use it to stockpile some stew here, but I can either trade or just stockpile for later. And at the same time, Teach reached the Jetsam. I'm going to have him grab all the black powder. That will be everything I need to defend my camp for quite a while. Now, all he has to do is bring the drifters and black powder back into town. But then last but not least, I'm going to use Teach to raid this merchant ship. It recommends having 2 gun damage. With Teach, I have 3 and 2 speed, which I have. This will allow me to get stone blocks, which I can use to build the gun tower. Since I don't necessarily want to be fully reliant on raiding ships and random events for my stone, though, I'm also going to use the newly acquired drifters to build a quarry. And again, the quarry output is 6. This takes 2, so I'm going to build 2 stone cutters. I'm also going to build a warehouse to store some of this, and I'll have 2 spare stone production, which I can use for anything I want later. And just like before, I'm going to use this warehouse to stockpile stone blocks, since that's a construction resource that I can send around my island. Because the quarry produces extra stone, I could also stockpile that. But if I don't have any immediate use for it, the deposit is limited. Now, if you use up the deposit, as you can see on the tooltip, it continues at 50% productivity. So instead of producing 6 stone a minute, it would be 3 stone a minute. It doesn't completely cut you off from resources, it just makes things a bit more difficult. So for now, I'm not going to store that excess stone because I don't need it. Now, when you enter most 7 Seas events, you'll be given certain tasks. In this case, the first objective is Chase, which primarily scales off of the ship's speed, followed by Threaten, which is going to scale off of things like gun damage and defense, because you're directly antagonizing the crew. You take an action here determined by these cards, which costs supplies. If you run out of supplies, you can't take any more actions and you have to switch to support, which means giving up crew, loot, or health in exchange for more supplies. You'll have to do this occasionally, but generally you should try your best to avoid it. Your stats determine how effective certain actions are, which is then bolstered further by rolls of a dice. So Ride the Swell is a test of speed, whereas Hold Fast is a test of maneuverability. Higher tier ships have better stats, making them more effective at certain tasks than others. In this case, the enemy is preventing distance gain. The goal is to gain 600 distance, so I'm going to use hook shots. This will reduce opponents' stats and make some of their actions less effective in the future. Now they're trying to kill my crew. So I'm going to hold fast, preventing that damage, and giving myself an extra dice. As you can see, this has now gone from 2 to 300 to 2 to 500. So I'm going to use Ride Viswell to try to fully close that distance. I rolled low, they rolled high. Didn't work out so well. Now, because I've been rolling low, and they've been rolling high, which is in part because I have a ship with lower speed at 2, as Teach is more of a direct damage captain, I've run out of supplies. Just as a quick note, if you're doing this for real, I don't recommend that you send Teach to the merchant ship. I recommend that you use a captain that bolsters speed. I was doing this for the sake of demonstration. So now I'm going to take some damage, some distance gain is prevented, and I have to use either Strip for parts or fewer mouths. Because right now drifters are more valuable than health, I'm going to do Strip for parts. And now I'm going to Ride the Swell. This rolls 200 minimum, so I will complete the event. In the next part, I need to reduce the enemy health and crew below 75%. So this prevents damage to health. I have two options. The first, I could activate Easy as Murder. This will enhance my dice rolls, giving me more damage, at least provided I continue to deal damage, which is going to be my goal. Alternatively, because this is preventing damage to health, I could deal damage to crew with Cruel Comeback. Because I want to set myself up for future turns, I'm going to open with Easy as Murder. Now it's preventing damage to crew, so I deal damage to health. Next is preventing damage to health, so I deal damage to crew. And that's an example of completing an event. Again, it would be a lot smoother if instead of using Teach, I had swapped over my captain to someone a little bit more speed focused. So now I'm going to use some time to stockpile resources in my camp and complete all of these other Tier 1 events. Alrighty, so I've completed all of the Tier 1 events. I've also done a little bit of cleanup around my town. The next thing to do is expand the Pirate Haven by building more pirate camps, and then completing enough deeds to get to 3 in ideally multiple, but at least one principal, thus unlocking Tier 2 ships. Personally, I like having at least one Tier 2 Empire ship. That way I can defend against crown raids far more easily without having to build turrets. Then for the others, depends on my victory condition. But for this run, let's just say I want a Tier 2 notoriety ship. That means I need to get 1 more notoriety deed and 2 more empire deeds. That said, there's also the Tier 2 plus ships. These are available at Tier 2 and 4, and they offer better stats from the base versions. If you right-click a ship, you can see its stats. So here we go, the Moonlight. Pretty good maneuverability, not much else going for it. But if you look at the Azimuth, it has the same maneuverability, but better gun damage. So it performs a bit better in direct combat. Same thing if you compare the Iron Fist, it's all attack and defense, whereas the Steel Edge has a little bit better speed for chasing down and capturing merchant ships. You know, the thing that was a bit of a pain to do earlier. So I'm actually going to make it my goal to get the Steel Edge and the Azimuth. Going back to the compass, that means I need 3 notoriety, 3 empire, and 3 seafaring. What are some easy deeds that I can complete? Well, for notoriety, I'm about to complete 100 pirate count. If I look at my ship that I have parked off the coast, I have crew incoming here. Right here, 50 drifters in cargo. So that'll be completed. That gives me 3 notoriety. Now I need 3 empire. The easiest way to get this is going to be to build pirate camps, because I can build 3 then 5, and they don't need to stick around, they just need to be completed. For seafaring, having a fleet of 2 ships. So I want 2 ships anyway, thus that's going to be easy. I want to put this in a nice juicy location. It cuts into the fertile ground a little bit, but look at all these beautiful resources that it gets. That's what I'm going to do, put it right here. I'm going to put another one over here. With this one, ideally I don't want to open up a new area of attack, though that won't be a long-term problem. And I want to try to get a bunch of those nice juicy resources. So you know what? This is looking like a pretty good spot. And I'm just going to go ahead and build roads to connect everything. Most of this pathing doesn't matter. I try to be efficient if it's something that I'm keeping, but I'm not keeping it. So unfortunate that I don't have the road length. That's something that can be expanded later. Oh look, deed is done. 3 pirate camps complete. Unlock salvage dock. That's good for reducing shipbuilding costs. A little bit pricey on the gold though. Something else I've done in the meantime is construct a trading post. See, wood is a renewable resource. So, I'm going to be producing a whole bunch of planks. I might as well sell some of that off when I don't need it for construction. Every 250, 22 gold, and because gold's a rare resource that you need for a lot of the best buildings, I recommend doing this sooner rather than later. Then using it to sell off things that you have a bunch of and or can easily produce, such as stew, booze, or of course, planks. I don't generally recommend selling things like the quarry resources. And oh look, 5 pirate camps complete. Compass complete. I will go ahead and take rock and roll because I have to. Iron Fist unlocked. Now I just need to do 1 notoriety. Gonna go ahead and get rid of this structure here. Clean up these just because it bugs me. Now have her dock, which will dump 50 new drifters into my colony. There we go. Deed completed. Personally, I don't use the gambling den much, so I'm going to take Walk the Plank. If you want to use it, you can. The problem with it costs 120 coin, and that's a pretty scarce resource early game. But this is all unlocked enough for me to complete the azimuth. So I'm going to go ahead, build a pier slot, and now I'm going to need all sorts of resources. There's a whole bunch of different resources that I will need to build a tier 2 ship. First of which is going to be rope. This is a shipbuilding resource that you're going to need a lot of. And so right here, I will get a leaf cutter. This gives 12 fiber. 4 fiber goes into the rope maker to produce rope. Can go ahead and put that on shore there. And I want another one that I'll just put on the cliff here. Go ahead and connect all those. Maybe connect them directly to the warehouse. Oh, whoops, that's not my warehouse. But maybe not connect it directly to the warehouse. Doesn't quite reach. Connect it to this hub here, and then connect this to the warehouse. I should probably fix all this pathing at some point. Oh, look, a community event. Taxes. I could use this to gain a bunch of gold. The problem with that, it's going to make a bunch of people unhappy. So, not going to do it right now. But speaking of unhappy, I've made a bunch of people unhappy because they're workers, and those workers require food. So to fix that, I'm immediately going to make this, a couple of campfires like so, connect them to a galley, and then connect the galley up to the main supply network, which is a very nice, easy way to do this. If you get this red angry notification at the top, it means you're missing something important. If this gets to 0, bad stuff happens. You have about 10 minutes to deal with it or your pirates revolt. I'm also going to start ship construction, specifically on my azimuth. This will take a little bit because I don't have that much rope made yet. Also because I'm not storing it anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and from now on store all of my rope in this warehouse. That means this warehouse will be a central hub for shipbuilding. It's got planks, it's got rope, and it can't really store anything else, so I might as well just store the extra planks here. Okay, ship complete. Because this ship is crewed by scallywags, I've unlocked a whole bunch of new buildings. Some of them, like the Buccaneer Grill, it's a better way to produce food than the campfire. The difference is it requires a pig herder, which requires fertile ground. Whether or not you replace your campfires with Buccaneer Grills, it's up to you. Personally, what I prefer to do is invest into Fireside Feast and enhance my campfire so I don't have any of that resource overhead. But also, I've now built a level 2 ship, and I have a fleet of 2 ships, which completes 2 seafaring deeds. So I can unlock this, and I can get a Shrine of the Sea, which I can use to accumulate buffs on my ships. More importantly, I can now build the Steel Edge, which that I'm going to construct over here on my first dock. This means my next task is going to be specializing this area for the needs of Picaroons, who crew the Steel Edge, and this area for Scallywags. They use a different upkeep resource from the booze that was required for Swabbies. So actually, I don't need any of his booze production anymore, which means it would be a really good thing to stick in a trading post. That way I can sell it and make an extra profit instead of distributing it. Now that that's sorted, I need to get cassava bread, This is needed as an upkeep resource for scallywags. It's produced at a cassava oven, which I'm going to build right at this midpoint. The cassava oven requires salt from the saltern and cassava from the cassava picker. One oven requires 4 cassava, 4 salt. The picker produces 4. The saltern produces 12 salt. So I could actually do a 1 to 3 to 3 ratio. As a note, I don't think you actually need 3. I'm pretty sure for your scallywags you can get away with 2, but this will allow me extra storage and room for future growth, such as if I wanted a tier 3 ship. Or, alternatively, I could sell it for resources. And then for the ovens, I'm just going to kind of place them in this middle area. I want them to be able to reach both sides, and yes, I know the transportation route is currently terrible. I will fix that. So the next thing that I need is to get the resources from here and here over to here, which can either be done via more efficient pathing between various things, but I'm also going to spend some money on an elevator. This costs 50 coins, which is not cheap, but it provides really good vertical movement. Now I'm going to redo all of my connections to the cassava ovens, because the default's not great. They're all pulling from the single nearest cassava picker. Let's cut off all these. First thing is everything to the saltern. Now, if the path isn't green, I'd change something, but the path's green. Now this can go to the farthest cassava picker, and it's still green, so that's good. This one here, this is the farthest total, so it goes to the closest. And with that done, I'm going to build a warehouse, like so, and I'm going to connect 2 of the cassava pickers to the galley. And the last one's going to go directly into my warehouse. And I'm probably going to stop selling planks at the trading post in favor of selling cassava. Go ahead and hire 18 scallywags, like so. This ship excels in maneuverability. Because it's an azimuth, it has decent gun damage and boarding damage. And if anything, I'm probably going to want to boost up the speed a bit, because my next goal is going to be to complete some of these events, i.e. I need 24 maneuverability, or 9 speed, or 4 speed and 10 defense. Now the defense, that's probably going to be better off with my other ship type. So instead I'm going to focus on speed and maneuverability, meaning I pick a captain that fits that. That said, don't treat captain choices as permanent. You can swap them anytime you're back in port. But for now, Honorata, you're up. I'm going to need to crew up this ship as well. That's going to involve making a distillery. The first resource that I need, barrels from a cooper. The second, sugarcane from a sugarcane farm. So again, I'm going to place these fairly near my port. And for the cooper, what do I need? I need a raw wood, so I'm going to place that. Fortunately, this lead deposit's right in the way, which, good old lead getting in the way of human development. The other thing I'm going to do, because I don't need this anymore, I have no upkeep that requires booze. So now that I've sold some of it, I'm actually going to demolish all of this and get my resources back. And because there's some jobs in range here, I'm going to go ahead, make, I think 1 campfire should be totally fine. Make a galley, and I'll just keep an eye on that, monitor it, build more if I need. Optionally, I could build a warehouse, could forgo the warehouse, but I will need someplace to distribute this. And so that's why I deleted all of the booze over here to free up drifters so that I can go ahead and build a tavern. Let's see, is this stabilized? Yes, this is stabilized. Again, gonna cut the auto pathing off, go over here instead. Unfortunately, I'm slightly short on having enough drifters to fully staff everything. This is because I slightly overbuilt on my cassava ovens. So, because I have this leading here but not here, I'm just gonna go ahead and temporarily shut this down and shut this down, bring up some drifters, and I will allocate all of them into the crew here. After completing a few events, I'll get some more drifters, and that'll solve that problem. And you know what? Let's captain it with Bill Teach. And so that, my colony is stable, and I have everything that I need to go ahead and complete these events. As one quick note, right now I don't have any production or consumption of booze. In part, this is because I don't have anyone actively using it as an upkeep resource, but there are some random events that will require booze for resolution, so it's a good thing to keep on hand. The only reason that I completely cut my production was to temporarily use all of that manpower and some of those resources for other things. But as I get more drifters, as I get more cohesion, as I explore new areas, I'm going to pick that back up. For now, let's send Teach to complete a noose for Enrique. This is the first quest on the Empire path. So first goal, reduce enemy health to 0. Second goal, cover distance, maneuverability being important. And third goal, defend. Right now, the enemy is preventing damage. That's not going to matter much if we use point-blank assault. You'll notice these numbers are way bigger than anything you saw with the Landlubber. That's because, unlike the Landlubber's pathetic attack power, the Steel Edge has far higher attack, which is boosted by another 5.2 thanks to Teach's Hatred is Power. And as you can see, this is 2 times gun damage plus dice damage, meaning it's massively boosted. Now the enemy is dealing damage. I'm going to prevent damage. This scales off gun damage for the amount of damage I deal, armor for the amount that I prevent. This is why a destroyer class ship is ideal for this mission. Other ships might have the gun damage to complete it. They might even have maneuverability for the next phase, but they won't have the armor to prevent damage, and that could result in a sinking. Alright. I'm just going to go ahead and prevent damage to crew. Ships under attack. Prevent some of the damage. I won't prevent all of it, but that's fine. Last up, defend for 3 turns. Anytime there's lost cargo, what I like to do is counter with Windfall. That's because in the support action, you can trade 20 loot for 14 supplies. That's useful if you run out. If you don't run out, then additional treasure is converted to coins, a very valuable resource, and supplies for the next run. Alright, deal damage to the hull, prevent that with safe distance. Deal damage to crew, prevent that with take cover. Again, high defense is carrying this. This time around, I think I'm going to pursue a notoriety victory. So I'm going to send my Azimuth to the Crossbone Keys. This unlocks a new region on the map with new challenges, and lets me access the Feasting with Legends quest. Though to complete it, I'll probably need a tier 3 ship. After all, I would need 39 maneuverability, and my Azimuth only has 32. The alternative to that is getting a maneuverability boost by completing a Shrine of the Sea. This would make it possible, though completing a tier 3 event with a tier 2 ship is still quite difficult. There's a much higher failure chance. So just keep that in mind and weigh the risk and reward carefully. Upon unlocking a new area, you get a short cutscene, giving you a few of the highlights and what to expect. Also get an entry quest. This is a good way to earn some extra cohesion and principal points. So in this case, for the Fountain of Youth, I can either follow the old man, this will lead to 2 notoriety points, or I can go there myself, which leads to seafaring points. And in both cases, the special location, the Ocean's End, which is likely tied to another quest, will be unlocked. Which you choose kind of depends on what path you're following and what you need to unlock. For now, I'm going to go into notoriety. Let's go over the highlights of a new area. There's a smuggling run. This will give wine, a rare resource required by high-level pirates. This is a repeatable event, so I could go there, complete it, and then after an hour, go there, complete it again. Then there's the Abandoned Settlement. This is tied to the Fountain of Youth. Treasure Cave, this is a one-time thing for 80 drifters. A friendly port, so now instead of having to go all the way back to my port of call, if I want to restock crew, repair my ship, resources, I can spend things to do that here. The Treasure Cave, again, recommended ship is boarding, which I don't have, but it would give some drifters. And oh look, free drifters. Might as well go grab those first. And if I wanted to advance the main story, I'd have to complete Feasting with Legends. There's also the location of the Ocean's End, but that doesn't unlock until I've completed the Fountain of Youth. So once you unlock a new area, you go about exploring it exactly like you did with the area around your base. The only difference is the numbers are a bit higher, and you might need some more specialized ships. This would mean building additional pirate settlements to get additional docks. And while I'm exploring this, my plan is to use Teach to act as defense for my base. In addition, because I haven't built black powder, now is probably a good time to do that. This is also a good time to address my housing situation, specifically to reduce the sprawl, because I can now unlock salty cabins. These do not require coins, which does set them apart from, say, the classy cabins or the fancy cabins. And they hold 8 population, meaning one of these is equivalent to 4 tents. And while it does take up more room than 1 tent, it takes up a lot less room than 4. At this point, you have almost everything you need. So again, I've jumped ahead, and here's a couple slightly more advanced topics. First up, what happens if you use a tier 2 ship with some buffs to complete a tier 3 event? So first up, I spend 8 resources, or 4, but let's be honest, 8's going to be better, to try to impact enemy stats. I could either massively reduce enemy gun damage, cutting offensive power, or I could reduce all stats by a bit, potentially making the entire thing easier. Because my ship's a bit underpowered, I'm going to go with the Disarming Smile and specifically nuke gun damage. Now you'll notice I need to cover 11,700 meters of distance, which is significantly higher than before, and I am going to be attacked during it, hence why lowering the enemy gun damage was more effective. Though it's still going to be a bit of a journey. My strategy so far has been to gain distance when it's safe. When there's Uncanny Strain, I don't really want to risk this because I could prevent 6 damage, but I'll take up to 22. So instead, I just do no risk, no fun. Then when it does something offensive, that's when I gain some distance while preventing the damage with Keeping Her True or Press Her Hard. It's not exactly fast, but it is effective, and it does ultimately get me where I want to go. This is going to be the hard one, because I don't have very much crew. That's the big downside of using a tier 2 ship. So I'm going to try to debuff the enemy as much as possible to prevent damage. Well, it's actually pretty lucky. Never attacked my crew. So from here, I have to get enough edge to win while preventing damage. And this is where things get real rough, because as you will notice, 2 to 12 incoming, I can only prevent 2 to 8. And I don't gain very much edge. This is going to be a tough battle. Ooh, opponents buffing themselves. I'm going to use that to gain a whole bunch of edge for myself. If I gain more, the enemy gains more dice. The thing is, if I gain 30, I win. So I'm just going to do that. And so that, tier 3 event completed with tier 2 ship. Just remember, your mileage may vary, and it is entirely possible that your crew will get wiped out and your ship lost. It's always safer to do it on tier. With the sea legs buffs, you can do it with lower tier stuff, and that allows you to progress more quickly. Alright, so there's 2 more things I want to talk about before I turn you free on the open ocean. The first is setting up supply chains to transport resources between different locations. The second is going to be reworking, refactoring, or rebuilding your village to be a little bit more efficient. So, for the first one, I have salt here. But let's say I wanted to get salt, not just from the salt urn, but all the way over to a building here that's going to use it, as this pirate camp has no salt deposits. The first thing I would do is assign a drifter to fetch some from the source. That way, it's accumulating in a warehouse. And the next thing I would do is kind of eyeball out how far the warehouse is away, and make a second one as a sort of midway point, like this. Now, I can't use this warehouse, it's already full, but I can make another one, put it maybe here. And there we go. We have a nice midway point, and then we have another warehouse. And the next thing is going to be to set up efficient connections. So we're going to go with a zip line. This goes right here. Now you can get from here to here. And same thing, but in reverse. Now it's fully efficient to go between these 2 warehouses. I'll just grab the salt. As you can see, guy zips down, grabs salt, zips back. So he's going to efficiently transport it. The next thing, set up another zip line here. And how far can I go? Pretty close, actually. Same thing, grab the salt. You'll notice, though, the return trip is much slower. So to fix that, I'm I'm going to build a mast. This gives me another high point. It would be a pretty bad idea to just set this here, but for the sake of demonstration, sure. I'm going to set the zip line here and have the guy walk up. Oh god, that looks so ugly. Yeah, don't actually build like that. But as you can see, the path is now green. So despite looking horribly ugly, at least it's functional. That way I can use this to create a supply chain carrying salt all the way from here to here. The other thing that you might want to do is refactor a bit. So let's say I don't want my Shrine of the Sea here. Or let's say I don't want all these houses here. Maybe I want to move all of my food production here. What I can do is pause the game, delete pretty much whatever I want. The only thing that cannot be easily deleted while the game is paused, warehouses. Why? Because let's say I go to delete this. I'll be refunded the coins and the planks that it took to build it, but the salt will be lost. So instead, I'd have to build another warehouse, move all the goods into that warehouse, then delete. I don't actually want the rope maker here. So I'm going to go ahead, delete that rope maker. And maybe I don't even want this here, or I should say this rope maker, because the leaf cutter kind of has to stay. Does the leaf cutter have to stay? No, the leaf cutter doesn't have to stay. All right, let's move this entire industry. So this goes away, this goes away. Of course, I'll need to fix the pathing. So I'm just going to make this over to here for now. It's ugly, but functional. And now I just rebuild my leaf cutter. Definitely going to want a new warehouse, so I'll put that here. There we go. Entire business has been moved. Now I could continue to stockpile rope here, potentially to keep it close to this dock. Or alternatively, assign a worker from this warehouse to come collect the rope from here and ship it all the way over. And so from here, the world's your treasure trove. Go ahead and plunder it. Now, as you build bigger and better ships, you're going to have to manage increasingly complex resources. It's not just going to be all rum and fun. In fact, you might even need to complete certain events, such as a smuggling run or a crown raid, to get unique resources which your pirates demand, otherwise they're going to mutiny, and, well, then you're going to walk the plank, and that's not going to be good. But after watching this video, you should be well prepared for the journey ahead. And, if you want more content on Corsair Cove, or other games, get subscribed and turn notifications on. I'm going to be coming out with some tips and tricks, along with talking about some of the game's more difficult moments, so keep an eye out for that in the future. Also, if you want to see my thoughts on the game as a whole, then check out my review. That should be up in the card and down below. Depending on when you watch this, if it's just come out or possibly later, there may be some other helpful videos down there as well. But for now, I'm curious, if you're new to Corsair Cove, what have you been struggling with? On the other hand, if you're a Corsair Cove veteran with dozens of hours on the high seas, let me know some of your pro tips down in the comments below. But for now, thank you very much for watching to the end. I'm glad you've enjoyed. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next one.